Hey, what's going on, everyone? It is David Palmer, the Leo King, and welcome to Deep Astrology, your weekly astrology forecast for the week of May the 27th through June the 2nd of 2020. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for being a part of HighVibe.tv. This show is exclusive to HighVibe.tv. If you are a member of it, you get the full show. You get all the charts, especially today. I'm going to be doing the helio charts, the geo charts, and 3D solar charts as well. So make sure that you're a member so you get the full show. If you're watching this on YouTube, you get the channeling portion of the show, and then we just do the audio only. We don't show the charts. So if you do want to get the full show and you want to be part of it live, we have our own live chat on HighVibe.tv. You can also watch live on the apps. The chat portion for the apps is coming out real soon, but we do have it on mobile browser, and we do also have it on the website. So make sure that you're a member now. Check all the links down below. But also, I do have this awesome horoscope. It's 3.5 hours that if you want to get even more info about the rest of 2020 here that I filmed on April 24th, it's called 2020 What's Next. Just go to the paid video section on highvibe.tv and purchase it. And of course, you could just download the apps and log in and watch it there. You don't have to be a member either to purchase that video and watch it on the apps or on the website as well. And we have tons of free content if you do download the app. And if you want to watch my lectures to tour videos to awesome other talent videos and my own videos that we have on there as well. Now, if you never watched the show before, I am going to channel the astrology for this week, and then I am going to bring it down into the charts, which are brought to you by Astrogold, which you can get on iOS, Android, and any Mac device. They have been updating Astrogold like it's fire. I'm telling you, it is my favorite astrology program. I love it so much. I use it on everything. I have so many Mac devices. I have my Android, everything, my iPads, everything. Check it out. Also, if you have a PC and that's all you got, make sure that you get Solar Fire. It's the best software, especially for PC when it comes to astrology programming. Same family too. So just want to give them a shout out and always thank you for doing your great work and continuing to bring astrology into the future even more. I just love what you're all doing out there, and I love always supporting you. And you know what? I just want to say I love supporting all of you out there with just love and happiness through this time. I know we've all been through so much, and this astrology right now has definitely been a lighter load, especially with all this Gemini energy. But there is still change that we are going through, and change goes in different parts of our lives. We've had to deal with the personal changes of dealing with the new world, right? With all the Capricorn energy and the Saturn-Pluto and the Jupiter-Pluto conjunctions that have already happened here in Capricorn at the beginning of this year. And we're still not done with those elements, especially with Jupiter and Pluto, and especially with Saturn coming back into Capricorn at the end of June. So this whole world thing, kind of still happening in the background, but now we're focused on our personal lives much more, especially around our relationships, our money, our self-worth, and the things in life that we want to feel good with. And this is this Venus retrograde that is getting very intense. We are going to see it start to come to its real peak energy as we are approaching on June 3rd, the inferior conjunction point, or also known as the Cassini point of the conjunction, which means that Venus and the Sun are going to meet up in their conjunction while Venus is retrograding, but this means that the Earth and Venus are on the same side as the Sun, meaning that sometimes you see conjunction points happen where actually a planet will be on the other side of the Sun. And so today I'm going to be showing some 3D solar charts, and I have some amazing things that I'm going to show you that are radical, that are going to blow your mind not only about the beginning of the year and how crazy the changes were, and showing you in a three-dimensional form, but also going to show you this Sun-Venus conjunction and why it's so intense and so unique. Now, we have a lot going on still because of that, but that's not, of course, till June 3rd, but the build-up here from this Wednesday, the 27th of May, all the way until June 2nd here is extreme. As Venus now has disappeared, it is going into the darkness where it is going to go through the underworld and come out as the morning star in June. So we are definitely coming into this, new energy of really having to confront and face, especially in Gemini, the questions that we have, and especially where you're seeing the North Node, right? We haven't seen this here since the end of 2001 and 2002, right? This is where we haven't seen the North Node in Gemini, and Mercury is leaving Gemini, the fastest planet, in its home sign and moving into Cancer. And we're going to see Mercury for an extended stay in Cancer since it's going to come retrograde in June around the 17th. So just be prepared that Mercury is starting to come into its crazy zone of a retrograde. It's not coming into shadow yet, but it is coming into Cancer, where we are going to have to deal with a lot of emotions and communication. And this is the first time we're going to see Mercury in Cancer in at least a year and a half since the nodes have left Capricorn and Cancer without a node here. So we saw it with the moon this week. How did you feel, especially on Monday, right? With the moon in Cancer opposing Jupiter, Pluto. It was a lot more emotional than you'd probably felt, because now with Rahu out of there, the North Node, you're feeling the true Cancer energy at its full form and the oppositions to the Capricorn energy. There's something about the nodes that, of course, we feel it, but it almost is kind of like a virtual reality feeling, I like to say. And now that kind of virtual reality is kind of out. And so our emotions are going to become the true headspace of our life. What are we going to make sense of our emotions this week, especially regarding relationships, because we are going to see the moon that, of course, is going to be making some major aspects this week. We're going to see it, of course, here in Leo, make great aspects to Venus, make great aspects to the Sun, make great aspects to Mercury, but we are going to see a big T-square. This week, we're going to see the moon in Virgo that's going to quarter square the Sun, and that's going to happen here. Coming into Thursday, Friday, we're going to see this intensity build up, because what's going to happen? Mars. Mars is in Pisces still, and Mars now is going to make its opposition to the moon while it's squaring the sun and create a major T-square. And this is a lot of mutable pressure. And whenever we get mutable T-squares, it's very intense, especially change, rapid change. And with the South Node being in Sagittarius now, that is kind of the apex point of where all these, square points and mutable points are all looking at, which is the new journey or the beliefs and the let go of maybe a vision that you had thought was going to go some direction, and now the facts are saying otherwise, and there's a more curious energy, there's a more prominent energy of a focal point, a focus point too, that we are focusing on more. It's like, where is your focus at? And especially now that we bring in that Mercury in Cancer, it brings up that emotional, that chest energy that we feel, that gut energy that we feel really intensely of, I need to put my focus here. This is where I need to be feeling and understand. With the Sun being in Gemini, Venus retrograde, and a North Node in Gemini, having Mercury in Cancer is going to be very important, especially at these very beginning degrees here, because we're going to see a solar eclipse here in less than a month at the 0 degree point of Cancer. So having Mercury cross this point, having Mercury also cross the North Node, it's been pretty clear that we are all shifting the chapters in our lives, and it's rapid fire. It's almost like we can't even go back to the other side of the reality in which we thought we were in. And I'm not even talking about the worldwide one. I'm talking about the one in your own life, in your own environment. There's been facts, there's been data, there's been changes in your life that have made you realize, you know what? The universe is taking me in this direction. I need to focus on this place. Instead of getting lost into hoping for, well, will this change, or will this go into backwards energy of where I want it to go and where I believe that I hoped it would go and it didn't. This is where we're going to have to leave these opinions in ourselves, that we're going to have to leave our subconscious belief systems, and especially because this is so intense with all this mutable square energy. It's pretty wild. But not only that, we are seeing, as Mars is in Pisces here, starting to get ready to make square points to Venus. And so when Mars and Venus square, it's intense, it's very passionate, it's very, enter in, exit out. It also could bring up frustrations. It could bring up major challenges when it comes to confronting, especially when it comes to, what we feel in our soul and what we need to communicate. And especially now that Mercury is going to come into Cancer here, it is going to be all the stuff that you've been waiting to finally have all come to the focal point. I keep getting this channeled from Spirit, this focal point, this moment that we've all been waiting for. And this isn't the one about the external world. That is the distraction at the moment. This is your internal world. This is your own environment that you need to keep focusing on. South Node in Sagittarius makes you continue to be focused on, well, what is this country doing? What is the world doing? Where is the global elements of things? That's important, but it is not the main point. It is about how you are affecting your world, which is your own space, right? Not only is Mercury in Cancer dealing with your personal life, but Mercury is the ruler of just your environment, your local city, your local area. So the locality right now is everything. And focusing on the locality of how are you going to feel better? What makes sense for your life more? What is the relationships like? Does this make sense? And which ones are going to be there? Remember that Saturn and Pluto did make a conjunction point in Libra in 82 and 83. And that cycle ended with the Saturn and Pluto conjunction of January 12th of 2020. And so as we are in this changing world, relationships are connected to this changing world. In this changing world, what are the relationships that are going to make sense for us? In many ways, we haven't been able to truly see that actually these fears that we might have of them all being the same patterns or going the same direction is actually ending based upon this Venus retrograde. Since Venus is the ruler of Libra, we are going to see this moon in Libra as well, which is going to be making great trines to all this stuff going on as the Sun and Venus are approaching. But we have to remember that Mars in square is creating this conflict or this passion. It's very intense. And especially you have to remember that we had the Mars and Venus conjunction point that was in August of 2019. And then we saw another square point here at the end of 2019, beginning of 2020, and we're seeing another square point because of the fact that Venus is in retrograde. And so this is bringing up a lot of aspects. What else was happening in August of 2019 was the Saturn and South Node transit, where Saturn was starting to slow down and station with the South Node, and that was a lot of karma that had ended. So if you're at a place right now in your life where you're still in areas of relationships, even possibly projects, career-wise, work-wise, that truly are still connected to a karmic ending that did happen for the globe and in your life and relationship-based wise, about that is not in the purity of the reality of your life, this is going to be a hard transit because it's going to be like you still haven't dealt with the heavy load of karma that was ditched and the ships that took off to new directions, and you're going to have to face this stuff now. Mars is going to force that with this Venus retrograde square in a Sun-Venus Cassini moment in an inferior conjunction. I mean, it's like God, Spirit, is doing the biggest work it ever can to really wake people up into this space. And especially with this Mercury in Cancer, it's going to be like, okay, we got to emotionally understand the changes we must make in our reality. You know, Mercury loves change. Mercury does like to look at things from both sides as well. And with this North Node in Gemini, we do have to look at the locality of our life and see how that affects not only how well our life goes into the future, but it affects the world. So people are too focused on how to fix the world, opposed to realizing that if you're living in chaos, if you're living in a false and fake reality of belief systems or over hoping that this is just all good when you know that the facts don't make sense, it's one of those things to where how is the globe going to change if people in their own locality or their own local life of themselves can't change their own relationship issues, self-worth issues, communication issues, subconscious issues, addictions and patterns, and spiritual, subconscious, karmic patterns. This is the stuff that the universe actually is doing the greatest work on us right now in order for us to change the world. So stop focusing on the world for 1 minute. Stop focusing on how to escape to some new island or to some vacation right now, because really the vacation is in changing your locality. And I know that might sound crazy, but if you actually really think about it, that's how life works. The littlest change in the smallest areas create the most biggest impacts. Right now it's about the micro, not the macro. And I think that that's where people get a little bit too caught up in, is the macro. Well, what's happening in the world and what's happening here? These are long cycles. They're macro cycles, not micro, right? With Jupiter and Pluto and Capricorn and retrograde and coming together 3 times this year. We've already seen one of the conjunctions. We're going to see another one at the end of June. We're going to see another one near the end of the year in November. And with the Saturn and Pluto, that one with Saturn in the same sign has not happened. Literally has not happened. With also Jupiter in the same sign, has not happened since 1284. I mean, we're talking about 736 years here. So we're talking about these macro cycles that are happening that are going to take a long time for the world to change, okay? They're not going to change in a minute. But we can, as a collective right now, make it a little bit quicker and make sure that this world does align in a better place by changing our inner locality and changing and making sure that the environment and our state of mind, and I've been saying to people, especially when it comes to mental health right now, and when it comes to the way that you live your life, the people that you're around, the relationships that you're in, the romantic ones, the business ones, the friendships, these are all things that represent the worlds that we are in right now. And it represents how well we're going to do with our mental health, because if it's in alignment with our soul, it's in alignment and it makes sense. But if it's disaligned, it's going to feel like we're lost. It's going to affect our mental health. It's going to affect us in ways that we're going to start to feel like we're not on the earth. You have to remember that Neptune being in Pisces at 20 degrees, we've not seen this since 1856. I've already done, and you can watch on my 2020 What's Next video, all where I talk about the events of 1856 and how that was such an intense time, especially with the invisible divide in America, the invisible divide that created the events that triggered the Civil War in 1861, right? Like, there is so much that is connected right now to then. There is so much that is connected right now to when you see a north node and a south node in the axis of Gemini and Sag and having Neptune in Pisces. You have to remember that when you went back to the last time that the north node was in Gemini, there was no Neptune in Pisces. It was in Aquarius. It was in trine. Now, what's interesting is we did see the south node, which was in Gemini, and the north node in Sag when it was flipped 8 years ago on this same Venus retrograde. But we had Neptune squaring that node exactly. And you know what? It felt like we did go through a multidimensional parallel shift. And I'm here to tell you that we're going through another one, and it's just building up and building up over this next 18 months, but even more so just in this next, like, let's say less than a year, since Neptune's already at 20, it's going to retrograde back only, this 3 degrees here, and we've got these nodes already at 29, and by, mid-June into coming July, we're going to see them come to 28 and start to move quicker towards that square to Neptune. And there's this multi-dimensional portal opening for people in their lives. And you might think I'm crazy again when I talk about a new Earth, when I talk about Dolores Cannon and the splitting of the Earth. There's actually astrological evidence of this. There's scientific evidence of multi-dimensions that's coming out and has been coming out. We found the black hole on the last Jupiter retrograde in Sag. We are seeing so many things that are changing the way that we look at the cosmos, that we look at our own lives and how we fit into this very unique universe. And even with the galaxies that we have now found are not separated by dark matter, but actually do connect to each other, that they are like almost like fingers, the same way that I think of Michelangelo's painting and the fingers that touch with God. What? Right here? Oh, well, I don't know. Anyway, so there's this point in our life where it's like, this is a major moment where everything is connected. But are we connected to deeper spirit? Is our environment, is our locality of ourselves, of our life, the communities that we are going to surround ourselves by, connecting to that everybody feels an alignment of that touch of spirit? And this is where you have to make those changes by the people that you choose. That Venus retrograde that was in 2012 was no joke, of May into June. And we are crossing into those thresholds right now as Venus is now disappearing and it is going to meet up with this sun. Now, I know I can talk about the astrology of the geo all day. I'll just finish with Saturn still being in Aquarius, right? Saturn is the one space right now in the zodiac that is truly, because with Mercury leaving into Cancer, Saturn is the dignified planet. It is the ruler right now of the most powerful planet in the zodiac. So really, during this peak period that I would call it, of this next week and a half of our lives and the changes that are going to happen, it's having to do with a change of people. It's having to deal with the change of how to understand how people represent not only in our lives about where we're going to go, how far we're going to go, but it also represents the kind of world that we live in and how that will affect global events based upon how people are. If you're stressed, if you're not a happy person, you're not in a happy relationship, you're not in a happy place in your own self, you don't know how to feel good, you don't know how to be stimulated, you don't know how to focus on your own happiness, focus on your own needs, focus on your wants, and find the stimulation and find a way to communicate them, not only to others, but also to understand how to communicate them in ways to yourself by doing things, by whether it's art or communication or writing, or even in many aspects, just creation in many ways is what Venus represents. How is this world going to change? And Saturn is trying to connect the dots for us to make the world come back together, to turn the light switches back on in many ways into a new way, into a new world, or an upgrade to the universe. But this upgrade is not going to happen unless you're ready to make the upgrade into your life. Now, because I'm mentioning the geo, that's from the Earth-based chart, I want to move to the helio, which I'm going to show you here in a second in the charts. From a helio perspective, it's very interesting. When we look at the sun, from the sun as the center of the chart, of course there's no retrogrades. And what we're seeing right now is Mars, during this whole build-up to June 3rd, just passed over Pluto, passed over Jupiter, and is headed towards Saturn. And Mars and Saturn are the two malefics. And so this whole week is forcing major change. It's in Capricorn too. At 27 degrees is where they're going to meet in helio, which is ironic because the exaltation point for Mars is actually 28 degrees of Capricorn, which we're going to see on the day Venus and the Sun make their inferior conjunction point. And so this is going to be either for some people the most amazing transition of partners or transition into feeling better and quality of life and changing your locality of your reality ever, by facing the music, by facing the truth, by making hard decisions, not getting locked into your emotional stuff. It's going to be hard, but I'm going to let you know that this is where you can exalt and step into your greatest self from a galactic understanding of the sun's point of view of the astrology, which would be more of a dharmic point of view. And I would say that this is so powerful because I'm going to show you in the charts the Mercury aspects and the squares to these spots that are coming during this as well. That this is definitely not going to be an easy moment, though, for people that are not willing to face the music, face the truth, face what is the fact saying. What is it that your emotions are telling you? With this moon making major T-squares, with this moon making major awesome aspects while it's in Leo and while it's in Libra, it's making amazing aspects to the Sun-Venus aspects. It's making amazing aspects to the nodes. And the moon does get served by pleasure of the nodes. The nodes serve the moon. They are the nodes of the moon. And so to see now the moon in great aspects with the nodes in signs that deal with this week, what? Leo, the moon, deals with love and romance. And where does it deal with in Virgo? Your reality changes that are going to be hard. It's going to square all this stuff in Gemini, your factual environment, your locality. And then it comes into Libra. Oh, your relationships. They're all connected. And when the Sun and Venus meet on June 3rd, guess where it'll be? Scorpio. Massive change at its fall position. And there is no planets that'll be in their real powerful, dignified positions except for Saturn. And so you have to realize that Saturn is ruling the road still. And it is ruling the road so much, but at least it's in Aquarius, and it's only in Aquarius for the rest of this month of June. That's it. Then you won't see it till the end of the year when it meets up with Jupiter at the very end in December. And so I'm just trying to prepare people that this is your moment to break free of any chains that you can. Break free of the things in life that don't feel like they're connected to you. Because if you're going to stay in things that are not making sense, not logical, in a hopeful place when you know the truth is it's not going to happen, it's not going to change. You think that you can fix it with the moon in Virgo, oppose Mars and Pisces, square the sun, and square Venus retrograde, while Mars and Venus are going to make their square point again with the Venus retrograde? God is doing big work to change your life. Do not be afraid about it. Step into the truth. Step into the dharma of even where the sun is at, saying it's time for you to take the initiative to make the greatest change in your life, because we have not seen in the helio, even going back to that 736 years, we've not seen in the helio Mars now meet up like it did when Mars was in Capricorn as the beginning of this whole pandemic and all that stuff happened. And how it was a crazy lockdown in China and how it was everybody, right? That was all Mars and Capricorn stuff. We're seeing that in our, I look at the helio chart, and I learned this from Michael Erlewine. I want to give Michael Erlewine so much credit for being such an amazing astrologer, Lifetime Achievement Award winning astrologer. And I thank God that he spent the time with me and taught me so much about the helio, and he has free books on it. I ask everybody to go read Michael Erlewine. Follow him on Facebook. He deserves so much credit. The reason why astrology is on a computer is because of him as well. But the helio work that he's done is beyond so many other astrologers' even comprehension. I mean, this man is so amazing. And to me, it's not this like more physical thing, right? It's this dharmic view that he calls it. And I really love that point of view because it's like if we really understand the sun, and if we understand what are the transits happening to the sun in an astrological point of view, it would be this moment that we do have to put our lives and realize what is the spiritual lockdown in our life? What is the spiritual things that are not allowing us to exalt ourselves to the greatest potential? And we can finally do that within ourselves right now. And it's whether or not you want to take the steps to do it or you want to stay in your own lockdown in your spiritual life. Let's take a look at the charts. I'm also going to be doing a 3D chart, so you don't want to miss this. It's going to be good right now. Yo, yo, yo. Oh. So, I know there's a lot going on, but you know what? I think that this is a very exciting time. You have to remember that Gemini is exciting, but some people get triggered by Gemini energy, right? Like they think it's too crazy or they think it's too much or it's somebody who's talking all day and all night and they just are like wanting to leave the room. It's important for us to communicate and to let our feelings out, to clear not only our emotions, but to help us deal with whether it's mental health, and that's always triggered by emotional. I know that some people, especially, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a psychiatrist, I'm an astrologer. But there is something to say about, when it does come to a lot of this stuff, it's emotional stuff. And we have to get to a place to where we've been stripped away of our emotions for the last year and a half especially, but even if you go back to December of 2017 when Saturn entered into Capricorn, I mean, especially with the sun conjunct Saturn at the very first degree, right when Saturn came in, the sun conjuncted Saturn right there. I'll never forget it. And so since December of 2017, it's been this emotional fuck show. I mean, honestly, it's been like a drought. And this is where it might seem crazy that the dikes are going to overflow, that the Gemini energy is forcing us to find the excitement in allowing emotion in and changing our life. We have to make changes in ourselves. And this is where people are getting too caught up in the world. They're getting too caught up in the mysticism that Neptune is doing with the semi-square that just finished and is going to come back to Uranus, about how the media or how these perceptions of things of the collective are very misskewed, when it just needs to come down to how is you as a light worker do when it comes to how do you make your own inner changes to be at your most light self? Because if you can't do that within your own light of your own self, how are you going to bring light to the collective? It's not going to be by how you show up to the collective in this kind of, there's trouble in the world about one thing. No, there's trouble in a million different ways in this life. As light workers that have been doing this for decades, I know who you are out there, that you watch this because you've been doing this work. You've been always holding the vibration for the planet down. You've been always a way shower. You've always been a disruptor from the old systems and the old paradigms, that it is extremely important for you right now to realize that let go of the world's problems for 1 minute and remember that you must be in spiritual attunement. This is a adjustment. This is us changing the knobs of our light being and our light self. This is the Sun and Venus in the Pleiades, right? This is major moments for us of connecting back to our original starseed roots of Lumeria, of the home of the superhuman species that we are. And so we need to remember that we are superhuman, that we have, and I know that some people might identify that as some sort of egoic way of looking at it. But the fact that we are these living creatures that truly are unique on this planet, that has a consciousness, that has an awareness, and has the ability to inside bring love and emit love and change the global presence and the global understandings through what we do as an individual in ourselves. This is not about clumping up the collective and having all the collective do the same thing, because that just dims the light of everybody. This is about what you must do in your own individual self. And this is a very important moment for that. So make sure that you join highvibe.tv if you are on YouTube, because this show is moving on Wednesdays, and I'm going to be showing every week not only the Geo, the Helio, but a little bit of this 3D, because it makes more sense. The more I've been showing this to people, they actually understand astrology better. Always understand the astronomy to understand the astrology. All right, make sure that you join. And for the rest of y'all, let's enjoy these charts or just enjoy the audio if you're on YouTube. So here we are on Wednesday, May 27th of 2020. And we got this moon in Leo making a great aspect here with the sun and Venus coming into Thursday. So I think that this is very good. It's made it square to Uranus, which could have brought you to some really weird places and having to figure out what you really want in your life to make you feel happier. You know, there is that Taurus Leo energy, and we are going to see a lot more of this, especially when Saturn comes deeper into Aquarius next year to make squares to Uranus, and when the moon will come, we'll see massive T-squares here. And we just saw a minor T-square, Tuesday night into Wednesday morning, and it's almost like we started to feel like, where is the best energy I can feel? And almost feeling like stripped away of that, because if you don't have the Cancer stuff down, the emotional stuff, you can't move into the Leo stuff. And if you have this feeling that you need things and you want to feel great in your life, and you're denying yourself of that, especially Uranus is like break free of any chains that doesn't allow you to feel the good in your life. This is the thing that's going to bring your heart back, is by the values in which you set. Do you set values for yourself that you're advancing forward to the ultimate value of yourself? Or are you belittling yourself by saying, no, I don't deserve this, or I don't deserve to be at my greater self? And these are big questions with the Venus retrograde here in Gemini. Literally questions, but changes in your personal environment and space that actually will change your whole reality. The functioning of what you bring to the planet, what you bring to the earth, your talent, your skills. These are things that we have to learn how to communicate. Might not be through the mouth. Could be through any aspect of who you are as a human. That's the beautiful part, is humans have found ways, and why we are superhumans, we have found ways to communicate in ways that are beyond. I can communicate to you through a wink. I can communicate through you to an emoji. I can communicate to you from anything. I could send you a little signal like, we're almost done, or you know what I mean? Like, you can make whatever that you want as a human to create your own visual, music, art. And that's what High Vibe's about. I mean, that's what we've been doing. Spiritual dance music. We have Kim Tabay and her artwork, which is right behind me, is another great way. And she has a new show coming out this week. We have Anne. We're doing history documentaries. We're almost done with our history documentary, the first series of multiple series that are coming out. So I just want to let you know, there's so many ways to find right now the creative energies to make communication happen. And you're going to have to find that in yourself. Also, the big news, as I'm talking to you right now, ironically enough, Mercury and the North Node have conjuncted in Gemini. And so this is actually activating, I would say, the North Node's beginning, because Mercury is the ruler of Gemini and the North Node is here. It is said, it is very difficult, whether you look at the Vedic astrology, you look at Western astrology, that the North Node is exalted in Gemini, and which would make sense to me for the fact that Mercury is Hermetic, astrology is Hermetic, that the North Node is always to head. If you want to understand the reality as best as you can and the truth, you study Hermeticism, you study the Mercurial, and to disconnect from the, Sagittarian elements of Jupiter. I will say this, okay? No triggering, but Jupiter, if you look at the mythology, wasn't like the most, sure, God of the gods, ultimate God, Zeus, you can go all day. But he also liked to rape people. He also didn't work out in marriages, and then found Juno and made her goddess of the goddesses. And he did some crazy shit. Where Mercury is a messenger of the gods, or God, however you want to, if you're a god or gods, plural, whatever you're at with that, Mercury is the messenger of God or gods. And Mercury's only job is to do that. And Mercury's running so fast that it doesn't have time to go do all this bullshit. Doesn't have time to go do all this crazy stuff. Sure, it can be a trickster, but that trickster element is sometimes in the more positive, right? To get through crazy situations, to continue the message of God, and having to get through the trickster itself. It can also be used by the trickster, though, as well, right? Communication can go in really different ways. But when you become too hopeful about situations that God, your family, your friends, yourself, your consciousness, when they say, or you or your consciousness says, no, this is not good for me, this does not feel good for me, and you're like, well, I'm going to still be hopeful, That's when we go into detrimental energy. That's why they say that the South Node is at detriment in Sag. And we already are dealing with a Jupiter in its fall position. And so with Jupiter in its fall in retrograde at 26 degrees, and with South Node here in Sag, this is definitely not a time for focusing on how to fix things that are obviously not making sense and believe in them. And also for us to not get stuck in hyper belief systems of like, that, oh my God, like this is the biblical ending of the world, or this is like you going to save the world, or this is this group that's going to save the world, or you know what it says? People in their own personal, basic, interesting though lives are what will change the world by the changes they make in their own self, by the ways that they know how to communicate better, the ways that they know how to understand the reality, understand the universe better, understand what God is trying to communicate to people individually. And there's something to say that, are you going to finally step into that fully as a person? Maybe you think when I talk about all this light worker shit that I'm crazy. But I'm here to tell you that I'm not. I'm here to tell you that there's a lot of people that know this science, this magic, with a K, and that there's a lot of this that is about that we make the greatest changes in the world from the individual level, from the individual understanding of the universe, and listening to the message that not only God has to us individually, but to a collective. But when the individuals understand it all, they create the message of the collective. So beautiful aspects here on Wednesday, but are you going to start to follow through with them? Mars at 10 degrees, right? So it's getting ready to make its squares here to that Venus and Sun as they are closing in on each other, okay? And if you look here, when I was bringing up the exaltations, right? With Mercury being in Gemini here at the last moment here Wednesday, it is a +5. Venus is doing pretty decent here, but it's going to come towards closer to the Sun and go more negative. And we have a +10 when it comes to Saturn as the ruler. So Saturn is still ruling the day, but Mercury is too. But as we show you here on Thursday, things change here on the 28th because we do see Mercury come into Cancer. And so Mercury passes this North Node, Mercury comes into Cancer, and we start to have to really look at the emotional aspects in our life. We have to start to communicate our true feelings. We have to actually make the environment around us comfortable and to the feelings that we want to have. So this is going to make change rapidly fast. Also, the moon being in Leo, going to be making a quincunx over here to the Jupiter-Pluto conjunction that's happening in retrograde in Capricorn here. So even though we're happy and even though the moon is coming towards Regulus and there is this kind of exciting moment here, it only comes when we're willing to make deep truth changes in the most biggest ways about making decisions in our life. Because if we don't make decisions, we don't make change decisions, we don't make decisions about the best road for us in the long term with our personal life emotionally that we understand that we need to make, we're not going to feel happy. And this is going to come up very intensely, and it's going to come up a lot. And so Thursday is one of those days to pay attention to, because I think that that's finally the ladder moving. That's finally things moving enough with Mercury coming into Cancer and the moon in Leo making this quincunx to finally go, oh, okay, I'm ready to make that change. I'm ready to change that whole way of doing things, because you finally are going to start to see, whether it's from another person, whether it's from yourself, you're going to start to see the feelings come out very intensely. When we move to Friday here, there's a lot going on. So Friday, we have this moon that will leave Leo and be in Virgo. And so with it being in Virgo, it's going to be in very hard aspects. It's going to become a T-square. So I'm going to draw that T for you. We'll have some fun. Do the T, boop, 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 and it's to the Sun. The Sun and the Moon are going to make their waxing quarter square conjunction. So that's a quarter square, right? That's the first quarter of the sun and the moon, right? After the new moon, the moon makes its first quarter square. It's in Virgo. This is changing your reality, trying to purify your reality, make adjustments. And when it's both Mercury-ruled energies, right? Gemini Sun, Virgo Moon, both ruled by Mercury. And with Mercury being in Cancer, it's about your personal life. It's about your emotions. And so you have to make changes now about where you're emotionally being pulled towards. Mercury also is at the degrees during this, as it's approaching, of where the solar eclipse is going to be in less than a month. 0 degrees Cancer. So there is something to say that this is not some irony. This is not just some synchronicity of just like, oh, you got to really look at this stuff and go, yeah, it is. And the big part is Mars. Mars at 11 degrees here, starting to make even closer squares to that sun. Remember, sun is faster than Mars, so it is going to be squared here. And Venus now at 16 degrees. So actually I can get rid of this here so you can see that. There you go. So we are going to see this really powerful, conjunction get closer. So Venus is starting to get burned out. And so, there is starting that element of feeling of burning out values that make no sense anymore in our life, or attachments to people, or attachments to even, physical items, but with Gemini, it has to deal with the personal, individual, stimulation in your life. Things that are not stimulating you anymore are just going to be burned out. Things that are truly stimulating for you are going to be ignited. And so this is like a very hot time, and it's a peak energy that's coming, because that big T-square here with Mars is putting pressure. It's putting a forcing upon, and it's in Pisces. What needs to be let go of? Like, you just can't hold on to realities. That's going to be a hard thing. The moon opposed Mars too. It amps up the energy to want to take action, but it has to take action based upon what you're intuitively being guided towards, what logically is the environment that needs to change, and being willing to make an understanding that you're making these changes for purity, not only for yourself, but for the world and for the collective, and for, more importantly, for spirit, for God. And what those changes are doing is for that. So that's going to be very powerful. And I do want to say that, looking at this moon, it's got some other 10 squares. It's got a Ceci square going on here over to the Jupiter-Pluto. So it's definitely going to make people kind of feel like, am I guilty, or am I feeling bad for making these implosions? Because there is something to say about Jupiter-Pluto. It is like an implosion. It is like a nuclear explosion, right? Like, there is this, but it's in Capricorn. So it's got these very rigid structures of iron. Remember that Capricorn rules iron, and it rules the heavy metals, right? So there's this heavy metal explosion happening at the bottom of the foundations that were the path that we thought we were on, in order for us to make sure that we don't go on paths that don't make sense for our karmic destiny, that do go back to the choices and the changes that were made in August into September of 2019 with the Mars-Venus conjunction and Sun-Mars conjunction, that is now starting to play out with not only Mars and the Sun, but Venus and the Sun at the same time. Can't make that shit up. We did a special video back in August called The Burning of Venus, The Passion of Venus, and also we did a video called The Turning Point of Relationships. Those are paid videos that you can get on highvibe.tv, and we go deeply into that stuff. I literally spent tons of hours of work and knowing that these square points were going to be intense, and this is the most intense square point you're ever going to see, I think, in your life, of a Mars-Venus retrograde, with the fact that we saw these massive conjunction points actually during a time when Saturn was in retrograde with the South Node in its home sign with Pluto there, and trying to end the cycle of the relationship transit of Saturn-Pluto in 82 and 83 that finally ended here in 2020. This is trying to not only bring a new world, but that's just too much of a Sagittarian way to put it, or even like a simple way. It's a little bit more complex, right? The world is complex, it's got a lot of things. And I would say that the main element is the relationships, the alignments. This is why a lot of the spiritual community has been obsessed with twin flames. This is why a lot of spiritual communities is obsessed with reading love, pick-a cards and tarot card readings. It's because there's a knowing deep inside people's souls that there is the connection to go through this new world with. If the new world is showing up, that means that all of the situations in the new world that are either in alignment with you from your galactic federation of light, your galactic understanding, your galactic, if we're going to talk galactic, look at the nodes, right? The nodes are at 29. Like, this is the center of the galaxy here, and I'm going to show you in a three-dimensional, right? This is the galactic center point, especially it's at 27 degrees, literally, if we want to get mathematical, but we're within an orb of it. And we are in this Milky Way with the nodes, and we are going to have a major solar eclipse in the galactic center. So it's towards the north. It's towards where we're going, not where we came from in many ways, in the element of understanding the journey. So, and if you understand the star Sirius A and B and so forth. So I might be getting a little bit too deep with y'all here, but we're going to go deep. This is deep astrology. So Saturday comes, and I think that Saturday is like, are you going to feel good that you made changes? Or did you wait and Is this another door? It could be, but I would say that this is where you experience the beautiful new door, or you're just realizing, oh my gosh, I did have to make that door because this ain't coming around again. You're not going to see the moon square the sun, Venus retrograde in Gemini, in Virgo again to make those changes with this big Jupiter-Pluto door opening, and with even Saturn going to support the moon as it comes into Libra the following day in the weekend. That this weekend can be one of the most beautiful weekends in your life when it comes to experiencing the relationship energies or the changes in your relationship or whatever, or in just what makes you happy, or some sort of creative element or art or some element. And to get through this chaotic reality of many of the stuff that I show, especially in the old magic books, whether you have to understand the elements, but what do you have to understand? Nature and art. That the way to get through the chaotic world is through nature and art. Does your relationships, do the things that you value, are they artistic? Are they do they feel not of the nature of the earth that we think of nature like, go get an organic this or go get an organic that, but the natural nature of the universe? Does it feel like it is part of that? Does it feel like it's part of that story? Or does it feel like that you used your own ego to try or your own karmic situations to try and keep reliving these weird situations out that maybe could come to an end? And that you can find a much more peaceful place, especially with Mercury here. It's at 3 degrees. It's starting to feel like we need to make these feelings known. And we either this weekend are going to go into, with especially Mars here at 12 degrees, making massive squares now to the midpoint of the Sun-Venus. The midpoint of 10 and 15 is 12 and a half. So we're literally going to see a big square to the Sun-Venus as Venus is retrograde to the midpoint, and it's going to be intense. And I would say that this could be a beautiful, intense weekend, or it could be the most dramatic stuff ever because you're wanting to make changes. People get stingy, or they get, not stingy, a better word would be they start to get picky and opinionated, and it's going to be the moon square the nodes. And we already have Neptune square the nodes, and we're going to see the moon oppose Neptune. So I'm just saying, like, this weekend is either beautiful or a chaotic mess that you realize that you've been just too scared to do anything with. It's interesting that the moon, because it's in Virgo at this time during the square point, will have a +8 score here. Ironically enough, even though it is in square, but it is in Virgo and Mercury, there's something to say that there's a very powerful element of the emotions in changing the emotional and the personal life. When we come into Sunday, this is what I'm talking about. This moon will be in Libra with Juno. Juno did marry Jupiter, remember, as the wife, the goddess of all the goddesses. And the moon is going to be in opposition to Chiron. We also are going to see the moon make a T-square here with Chiron and the moon to Mercury. So if your environment and your personal life hasn't changed and you don't feel the balance and the harmony and the beauty of the relationship and the lifestyle that you live and the life that you live, and you're feeling like you're in just a weird place where you can't be your full authentic self, where you can't be in that vulnerable true self that you want to be, I don't want to say you're fucked, but there is something to say that, you know what, the writing was on the wall. The writing's been on the wall. That's what Mercury and Gemini was. That's what Mercury on the North Node was on Wednesday. That's what, it's like you've got to, now that Mercury has crossed over, you must have made a choice. And especially that this moon will quincunx over to Uranus, it's definitely not going to be an easy transit. It does have the support to Saturn, meaning that, you know, by the time, and especially more Saturday, that if you made these choices, you'll experience them in that sort of way. You know, but Mars still squaring that midpoint and even closer, as Mars is at 1247 on Sunday, and we are seeing 11 and 15. We are 4 degrees away, so that adds now 2, that makes it 13 degrees, which is going to be the exact degree where we're going to see the Sun and the Venus, you know, conjunction point. We move to Monday, June 1st, rabbit, don't forget that. Now things get really intense. The Sun-Venus gets very close, 12 degrees, 14 degrees. So Venus is now really starting to get burned out here. And it's with the moon that is going to be at 22 degrees. I'm, of course, looking at it later in the day. I'm looking at the sunset to show you all that Venus is crossing, when the sun sets, even though you're not going to be able to see it because the sun's burning Venus out, Venus is down with the sun and going into its setting motion, which even though it is in a retrograde, there is something beautiful. Venus does like to set, and it does like to set, you know, many ways, like in a beautiful setting, right? But it's being burned out. She can't be seen because she's making her change. She's changing her wardrobe. She's changing, especially in Gemini, right? Her curiosity, she's changing her mind. She's changing her environment. And this is a very powerful time with this moon in Libra because it's making major squares over to the Capricorn stuff. And so I don't think we'll be happy on Monday if we didn't make changes, because we're going to know that there's no time left. It's coming faster than lightning as Mars at 13, making squares to the exact midpoint. That's the exact place where we're going to see the square point of, or the conjunction point of the Sun Venus. And that's pressure. And so some people might have to make crazy moves Monday because they just didn't see writing. They didn't make changes. They didn't make changes to their personal life. They're not feeling good in relationship, or they're not feeling good in themselves. They haven't found a talent. They haven't found a skill. They haven't found a curiosity. They haven't found something to shift things. Because when we move to Tuesday, this is the last chart I'm showing for the week for Geo, but look at this. We're already seeing the Sun and Venus conjunction point, even though technically the Sun-Venus is going to be happening at pretty much late into, will actually be early in on the 3rd, West Coast, but it'll be the 3rd for everybody in Australia and everybody in China and on the other side. But I will say that Mars at 14 here has already made that square to Venus, and we're seeing that happen if I were to move the chart back on June 2nd, on Tuesday. And with the moon being in Scorpio, opposing Uranus in Taurus, it's definitely with the moon in fall position, and let me show you how bad that the astrology is. And I'm not saying that it's bad, I'm just saying planetary-wise. Jupiter in its fall, -9. Venus, because it's getting blown out. Mercury, because it's in Cancer. Sun, because it's in a burning out of Venus and being blocked out of its full rays, even though not maybe from Earth's point of view, but just in general. The moon in Scorpio, fall position, bang. The Mars in Pisces, in square to those horrible, an inferior conjunction, 0. The only one with a +7 or anything higher than a 0 is Saturn, and it's in Aquarius. And if we look at this, that moon in Scorpio making squares to Saturn in Aquarius, it's going to be harsh hitting Monday into Tuesday for people if they haven't made the changes to their reality for a better life. It's going to feel hard. It's not going to feel good, because this is where people either feel really good or they feel deadly alone because they didn't make the changes. I have been through this transit 8 years ago. Put yourself in the shoes. Where were you? I think it was June 6th was the Venus and Sun-Venus inferior conjunction. Where were you June 3rd through June 6th? Where were you June 2nd through 6th? Go look at your old Facebooks. Go look at the beginning Instagram pictures in your Instagram. That's when Instagram got big. And Instagram got big because it was trying to compete with Facebook that went public, and then Facebook ended up buying Instagram. I think it was 2014. So, but Facebook had just become public just weeks prior to this. So I just want to say that this can be just the most amazing world, but the changes you make fast and quick at the beginning of this week, and use the energy when it's in its positive, and don't wait till the pressure cooker is blowing up. We're talking about a crock pot that turns into a tea kettle, and it's got beef stew splattering all over the place. Or the saturation and the change to create something that's a lot more light, not so heavy, and a lot more better tasting, and a lot more clean of a mess. Even though I think everybody's going to go through a little bit of a mess, because they might be experiencing it through somebody, and we have to all be empathetic to people right now with Neptune, of course, and Mars getting closer. We got to be empathetic, but we also have to realize that Mars is about to head into the crazy world of Poseidon and the trident that he holds in the sea. And there is so much Neptunian energy, especially for the fact that we are just weeks away now from Neptune getting ready to come retrograde. And Neptune here at 2051, the antenna is on. And it is squaring the nodes. It is squaring the Sun Venus. It is, there's a lot, and Mars is squaring this. And this is a lot of pressure. Although we are going to see the moon in Scorpio oppose Uranus, right? Is this a better world? Did you take the steps to heaven, to a better life? Or are you going to feel drained out, especially with that moon making quincunxes by the end of that Tuesday into Wednesday, which next week, when we come back now on Deep Astrology Wednesdays, you'll see that. I want to show you the helio on June 2nd. But I'm going to just use this chart to take you through the whole week. Look at this. On June 2nd, So this helio, this is the sun, right? So heliocentric, okay? Here it is. So imagine this being the sun at the center. Here's the sun Venus on June 3rd. Venus is going to pass the sun. I'm going to show you in a three-dimensional model here in a second. Jupiter, Pluto, Saturn, Mars. Mars at 27. Mars reaches 28 degrees by that day. That is the exaltation point for Capricorn Mars. You will triumph in your life and be victorious by making it through the tough choices and by making the changes into your quest of your destiny. I've been talking about this. You can watch it for free on YouTube. It's called The Era of Providence. My talk is up. I put it up a month ago. And I talk about we all had to take ships to our destiny. This is the point to where you know you're on the ship. If you choose to miss the boat because you want to stay hanging back on the emotional Cancer land in safety and not go towards your destiny, because no longer are the nodes in the space anymore. So guess what? Destiny is everything now with all of this Capricorn, and especially in Geo, but even in Helio now. Finally, Mars, in its exaltation, is meeting with Jupiter for the first time in 12 years, is meeting with Pluto, okay? Is meeting with Saturn. They have not met, Mars has not met with these three since the 1280s, okay? While there's a Sun-Venus, well, Earth-Venus, sorry, because we're looking from the sun's point of view. And what's the big thing? Look at Mercury. So as we approach this, look at this. So if you see this right here, June 2nd, okay? Now, of course, this is West Coast time. Oh, okay? So Mercury likes to move and hop about 4 degrees a day. It's just a hop and skip a jumper, okay? Mercury's at 18. It's just going to automatically be squaring Jupiter the day before the Sun-Venus conjunction on Tuesday. That's like, you know, people not realizing, especially about relationships and how it's connected to your destiny. And look at Juno's at 23. It's not at 5 like in Geo. It's at 23. It is exactly squaring Pluto. This is hugely about relationships and fated destiny, and fated relationships are the ones that are the ultimate partnerships in our life. This Venus retrograde is about trying to bring in from God, because this is not with an eclipse. So even though it's getting burned out, there was a Venus eclipse that I brought up, and I've said it for fucking years. 2012 and 2004's Venus retrogrades in Gemini. This one does not have it. This one is bringing something deeply in. Those eclipses brought you karmic lessons. This is the real deal. And it's whether or not you're going to make that choice or not, and whether or not you're going to block it by your head, by weighing it out too much and not making decisions. Mercury in Libra has a hard time squaring Jupiter and squaring Pluto and Saturn, and it's going to do that all through this conjunction point. It's going to come fast. Now, yep, so this is where I'm going to show you now. Where did I put it? Oh, here we go. Oh, no, here it is. Okay, I'm going to turn the sound off. All right. So, here is May 28th. Okay. So, as you can see, Venus here. Oh, so it's this way. So, there we go. Okay. As you can see right here. Okay. There's June, right? So, we're going to back it up. Back it up, back it up. Okay, so we're here on the 27th. So every day that goes by, right, here comes the sun that's right here, and here's the light of the sun, and here's Earth. We're not going to see Venus pass in front of Earth's position of seeing Venus retrograde. That is very rare. It's a 120-year cycle. We finished it in 2012. Here's June 2nd, where we ended our astrology, okay? Now look at this, okay? Look at this, how powerful it is. This is what an inferior conjunction is. Just for those that just don't know, I know other astrologers out there are like, oh my God, I know this shit, but I'm just showing you. Here it is, June 3rd, okay? Boom. See that exact alignment? Now what is this in exact alignment with? This is happening at 13 degrees. Well, what's interesting about this is look at that full moon ready to come. See this moon? It's getting ready for that lunar eclipse that's going to happen in Sagittarius after this. 2, there is a comet called Enki that is a 3.3 year comet. This was the comet that was found after Halley's Comet, all right? And it's the comet that we understood how to understand comets because it is the only one that is so constant. It is an exact opposition to this Venus-Sun conjunction in alignment. Look at that, okay? And if you notice, if I want to move back here, look at this. See how the comet? How is this comet exactly on the 3rd going to be exactly in the exact opposition point? Bang. And I'm showing you from, look, you can't make this up. And on, see this purple line out in the horizon line? Oh, wow. We went too far. Of course we did. That's how I do things. You know what I mean? Let me turn the sound off here if I can. All right. So what's interesting about this, to come back to it, right, is, I took my settings off. Hold on, I'll just take one sec here. Ecliptic line, galactic line. We want to show comets, spacecraft, star names. Okay. Draggable planets enabled. And system settings, best quality, geo is LA, we're good, okay. So when you see this, as we come to this again, June 3rd, let's do it AM, okay? So see this out in the horizon line, the lighter or the darker purple, that is the galactic ecliptic, okay? So, the sun's ecliptic path, meaning this is like the solar system's ecliptic. So if you notice, when you start to see some things like, look at this comet down here, it dips underneath the ecliptic path. See how there's all this stuff? But what also is interesting in the fixed stars, what we are looking at from this conjunction point, even though it happened at 10 degrees when the sun conjuncted Aldebaran, is we are looking at Aldebaran and the opposition star, which is exact, which is Antares, which you'll see right here, Antares. See that right behind that out here? And that Antares energy, as of course, is the 500 times our size of our sun, the red star that does Scorpio. And here is this alignment, and then Archangel Michael in the Pleiades, and the Pleiades start Aldebaran and go up, right? And Algol, which you'll see if I just look kind of from this angle right here, you'll start to see the seven sisters, and when they come up, right? Athena, back there, but you can see Algol way up here. There it is, up in the corner, up high. So these are all the seven sisters that are up there, and this is a Palladian alignment because of the fact that they're all in alignment, looking from Earth's view. We're looking at them. That's how astrology works. Like, it's not like the opposite form that some people might see when they look at a chart. The other thing that I want to show you about this is I just want to take this back because some people, I don't think, really realize, a lot of people have questions about this pandemic, or they have questions about things, and this is the only way I can show you is I'm going to back this up to, oh my gosh. Welcome to the solar system. Okay. Let's move it with Saturn back a little bit. Oh, I'm going to have to change the settings so I go enabled and it's constellation name show, stars name show. Okay. All right. So I'm going to move this back with Saturn. And we're going to go to, let's say, November of, what the heck? Last time. Wow. You know what's crazy is if you watch my prediction video, every time I try to do anything about how the world is crazy and changing, there is a force out there that doesn't want me to show this stuff because this awakens you to what happened. Stop getting lost in these I'm just not going to say it. I'm just, you know what I mean? But like, stop getting lost into the external world's viewpoint of looking in a microscope about how the world's going to be fixed. The world is going to be fixed by understanding what this was. And I'm not even using astrology right now. I am actually using the science that they say to astrologers that makes no sense. Okay? And we're going to go we're going to take this. Oh, good. I can do it this way. Okay. So let's go back to November of 2019. Okay. And let's go look at, from an Earth's point of view, here's the Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto way out there. Now, when we start to bring Jupiter forward and play, and I'll put it a little bit forward, okay? Let's move it by days. I want you to see how the alignment, let me see how I can do this. And I want it from this kind of direction. Okay, let's go backwards and fast by months. So if we actually can go by, okay, so look at how Pluto, see that ecliptic line? And see how Pluto's way up there? That's 2012. Now let's watch this. Let's go bring it back into faster motion here. I'm going to go a little bit slower here. So see how Pluto is just slowly on its slow approach down to the underworld, and watch Saturn that's going to come out of nowhere and meet exactly with Pluto on that ecliptic line. There's Saturn, that's 2016. The approach. To meet these two together took 500 years. Bang. Right? There's 2020. Stop. That's where they met. And that's pretty insane, right? And look at that. That's where they met. Boom. That fast. And it was approaching for a long time. This is the magic of the universe at work here, folks. And when I'm saying that this Sun-Venus conjunction and this comet, and they're all happening at the same time, right? You can't mess with that. I do want to say one more thing while we're here. If I just take you to August, okay? Look at Jupiter, Pluto, Saturn. They're all in the same area, right? If I can even blow it up like this and kind of blow it up like that and show you from that view. Jupiter, Saturn, and look at how far Pluto is out there. But you can see how they're all in the same alignment. That has not happened for 736 years. And the last time that we saw this was that long ago. To see that, so that's the outer world that's changing on a long course. And when you start to understand how Neptune and Pluto are pretty much in their nice alignments, and here's Uranus. So we have these outer planets that are kind of surrounding us. And if you look at where they're at in the zodiac, right? If you look up, right? So you have these outer planets, right? Way in their outer realms, okay? I don't think I was able to load the constellations in here, but it's these outer realms of where Pluto is entering into Aquarius, right? Neptune's in Pisces in the outer realms. And Uranus, of course, is in Taurus, and here it is getting, and then there's Eris at 24 Aries, right? This is that 10th planet that was found, and this is an exact square to all this Pluto, Saturn, and Jupiter. There's a lot coming, and there's so much coming in our life. We have to all be prepared by making these changes now, because if we just take it back to today, or what we're about to see, June 3rd, okay? And we come back into our beautiful sun and look at this alignment. Let's look at it from the sun's point of view for a second. Bang, right? Look at that comet. I can't get any more exact. And the exact opposition to Venus and the sun's inferior conjunction point. We are getting ready for Mars, remember, to come retrograde, because Earth will pass Mars. Right now, Venus is passing Earth, which is retrograde. Now look at Mercury. As I move that, if I start to move this forward a little bit, right? Oh, I don't think I turned this on. Realistic or enabled. Okay, there we go. So, see that? Look at as now Mercury, June 17th starts the retrograde, and that's where the peak of that's going to be. And that's when Saturn is going to come back into Capricorn. And also, if we look at this comment, okay, it's going to be closest to the sun on June 24th. How funny, I'm doing June 28th. Let's just move that Mercury retrograde back to June 24th. That comment is going to be hit closest to the sun, and this is going to be at a time where we're in a Mercury retrograde. Venus is now starting to be shown as its last day of being retrograde, meaning it still looks like it's going backwards in our view, and it's about to be popping up as the morning star, and it's a beautiful thing. But it also is when Mars is entering into Aries, because now the Earth and Mars, and we're going to see this all through starting in September, October, and November. And this is war stuff. This is intense. And there's a lot that I even want to say about war now with the Mars squares to Venus retrograde and the warmongering that's preparing for what, I don't know what kind of war we're looking at, but the last time, we can go to camera and finish this, is the last time that we did have Mars retrograde in 1988 in opposition to the sun at the exact same time that we're going to see in October was when Reagan did say to the UN it would take a massive alien attack in order for us all to come together. We're about to replay that transit in a new moon cycle with Saturn, Pluto, Jupiter, and square. In 88, we were preparing for Saturn in Capricorn, and we were preparing for its journey. We weren't seeing a Pluto there. We weren't seeing a Jupiter there. So I'm just preparing people that right now is the time of beauty, to make the beautiful life, to go through an ever-changing world that you have no control over. You have none. I wanted to show you that dip of Pluto and Saturn and how it went, and now Pluto is going into the underworld, that we are experiencing the realities underworld happen to bring it down. Pluto is taking Saturn. So imagine Saturn's and all the planets, they all are like this with the sun. Imagine if I was the sun. I'm a Leo king. But imagine they all do this. So here comes Saturn, and what the heck is this? Pluto, really slow, and boom. Okay, so when it hits it, it is taking it down. It has all that momentum down. Why do you think Pluto rules the underworld? Why do Scorpios rule a scorpion that goes down into a hole, or they want to take you deep inside? This is taking this reality deep down with it. And this is these brighter moments, because inferior conjunctions only happen with Mercury and Venus because they're closest. And this is it. Make the changes. Next week, we're going to come back on the 3rd on Wednesday when it's happening. I love you all very much. Please spread this video to as many people as you can. I love you all very much. Thank you for being part of High Vibe. I'm always here to give you all that I can. Everybody here at High Vibe is all about bringing that high vibe. I know that you can make these big, difficult, but easy choices when you realize there's bigger difficulties out there that you don't need to pay attention to at the moment, because if you can't pay attention to the difficulties in your own life of truth and of what you really need emotionally and what you need to change with your value sets and your relationships and the things of creation of the light, how are we going to go through these crazy things that are coming up, continuing in our world? Thanks so much for all your support. Truly appreciate it. And I'll see you all in the next Deep Astrology.